I'd now like to ask Tongayi and Stephan more about your entrepreneurial journey, and I'd like you to share more about your organizations and the way in which you believe entrepreneurship can contribute towards the development of Africa.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. Yes, this is a great opportunity, and I appreciate you for giving us the chance to be here. I like the term that I've heard for the first time today, which is Afri-consciousness. I really like that term because one thing that I always tell our team and everyone we work with is there are two things which is that we follow. That is technical competency and cultural competency. Like you can be a great developer, a great designer, but you also need that cultural competency, which is knowing your history, knowing where you come from, having context in everything that you're working on, which makes a huge difference as opposed to someone who's just working. So I just wanted to point out that Afro-consciousness, I think that's something that I'm going to use a lot. But yeah, I'm Tongayi Choto. I'm from Afriblocks. We're a global Pan-African freelance marketplace. And what we do is we seek talent across the continent and connect them with remote jobs across the world, mainly in the USA, the UK, and Canada. And we made history as the first startup to be accepted into Techstars Accelerator this January this year, which is one of the biggest accelerators in the world, probably in the top 3. So that was huge for us. And to date, we currently have about 3,500 freelancers from across 7 African countries. And our thesis is that, there's a global impending skills talent shortage that's taking over the world. Within the next 9 years, there are going to be about 85 million jobs that are going to be left unfilled because there are not enough people to fill in and close those skills needs. And these skills have to do with artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science. And what Afriblocks is doing is we are equipping or providing the technical tools for African professionals today, because Africa is, the largest untapped resource of professional talent. Talk about, being the youngest region in the world. The population is growing fast. So Africa is in a unique position to close that gap and to be able to fill in that impending skills shortage and, supply the whole world with that talent that we're so desperately going to need. But, that's the bigger vision. To date, we're talking about, that graphics design, that business card design, a flyer design, that website development are the things that, can help a professional, someone who's graduated from school with their degree in computer science, but are not able to, get a job in their local markets. We're saying, we're helping them reach out to a global community that can help them with their careers. And when we look at the other side, we're talking about, small businesses, Black-owned businesses across the world, across the African diaspora, who cannot necessarily afford talent in Silicon Valley, which is extremely expensive, but can work with African professionals who are providing even higher quality services at affordable pricing, to support their businesses. Because what we're saying, I always give the example of my mom. She's in the UK. She's been living and working there. She had to leave Zimbabwe, due to circumstances back then. But now she's there, and she always posts jobs on our platform to say, what, I'm now living and working in the UK, but this is a way that I can support talent back on the continent without breaking my bank, because I'm always doing this design and software work anyway. So it makes sense for me to connect with talent on the continent who provide the same skills and the same quality of work. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's Afriblocks, and that's what we're trying to do. And the bigger picture is eventually we want to connect, professionals across the African diaspora, be it African Americans who want to start a business in Ghana, start a business in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, they now have someone they would have worked with on their website. So now they'll be asking, what's the process and things like that, because that's how we think we can connect, as opposed to looking into aid. I like, the stats that we saw that, remittances are actually higher than the aid that we get, from across the world. So it makes sense for us, to tap more into that professional talent and professional resources as a way for us to continue to support ourselves, as opposed to, waiting for aid every single time.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me, first of all. And really like the concept of Afro-capitalism. Never heard it before, so it was really refreshing to hear that concept. So as mentioned, name is Stephan Eyeson. So I run a company called Serve 54, and our mission is basically to understand the African consumer and to make data much more accessible and easier to access within Africa and emerging markets, starting off with Africa, because there's a lot of ground to cover. So in basic terms, what we do is we help companies understand consumers. There's been a large challenge of, okay, anytime you go to like a conference or anything like that, or anytime you speak to someone that's starting up something, or even a large company that wants to understand, what does a Nigerian think about eating in the morning, drinking in the evening, what they buy, what moments they experience, etc. There's not enough data out there within these informal markets. And a current state in which companies get market research now is really cumbersome and really labor intensive. So one of the problems we're solving is, okay, how can we move offline research to online? So for example, when you're going to a global firm to understand, hey, can I do research in this place? Let's say, for example, if it was Mozambique, most of the research would be done offline. So they would actually go to that place, travel there, or if they're in country, and then speak to people outside, right? There's loads of sort of human errors and errors that can come from actually doing this in terms of like human errors. But what we're doing at Serve 54 is how can we move this online and meet people where they are, right? So as we know, internet or data on a continent is one of the most expensive in the world, right? Comparative to Western countries. So some of the things that we do is, we enable SMS, surveys, also USSD surveys, also surveys on our mobile app, which is data free in some countries. And then also surveys on web, which is also data free. So we allow people to actually take surveys where they don't have to use as much data or use any data in some circumstances. And then companies then see this data, are able to contact an audience. So as we gather up people that want to take surveys, that are incentivized, people sign up to take surveys, but then also they put their profile down, right? So they actually say who they are, what they do, age, gender, etc. So when a client wants to understand, hey, I want to reach out to mothers that live in townships in South Africa, we're able to do that pretty quickly, and we're able to make that happen. So we're trying to make reaching out to these consumers easier. And I think for me, I guess the main mission here is, okay, you want to start something or you want to expand. How do you do that? If it's B2C, how do you do that? How do you understand your consumer quickly? How do you understand what texture of noodles somebody likes in Accra versus Kumasi, right? City to city within a country. We're able to do that, and we're able to save that person a lot of money in terms of doing research on the ground. But then also more than that, it's access to data and access to consumer information on Africa. So we have to think about, 90% of, or let's say about 80% of places on the continent outside of South Africa is very informal. And how data is collected here is through credit card data, through transactions. Essentially, the rise of mobile money is something that's gaining traction in a lot of markets, like Kenya or Ghana, but then a lot of massive markets they're not. So in South Africa and also in Nigeria, mobile money is not as prevalent. So a lot of these economies are cash-based. So if they're cash-based, how do people understand what people are buying what people are buying and what people are selling. And we have to figure out what are some of the technology mechanisms that we can use to understand offline transactions, right? And understand what people are buying without them getting a receipt when they're going to an informal market, etc. So some of the tools that we're building are image recognition technology within our app that allows people to take images of what they're buying in informal markets, so we can collect that data. And then we use it as tracking data and incentivizing our audience to tell us. So we're using this crowdsourced approach to understand our audience, but we're also partnering with startups and transaction companies that, you know, transact with mobile money, etc., to understand what people are buying. And I guess sort of my entrepreneurial journey has been more so of problem solving. I come from a technical background, or you could say business and technical background, working at SurveyMonkey beforehand, and then also working at Uber, where we tried to solve the biggest transportation problems. And I think, I guess, on the continent, I think that a lot of the uncovered, let's say, entrepreneurial opportunities are maybe come from more of a, maybe we have to meet people where they are, is sort of the approach that I use in terms of access and in terms of adoption as well. So that's what we do at Survey 54. Yeah, so I attended Startup Bootcamp Accelerator. So the reason for going to it was because one, it's based in South Africa, so a lot of our clients are in South Africa, and I think two, one of the things that it gives you is one, capital, whether that be small or big, or one, capital, two, a community, but then also three, credibility. So a lot of the investors that we met were from that accelerator. Our first check-in were actually from that accelerator, and that was like pitching the first day and then pitching at the end of the demo day. So it's just more of an easier way to get credibility when you're reaching out to these investors that are within the accelerator community. So I say it works really well if you're a startup and you're super new and you want to go through a process of meeting other entrepreneurs, but also gaining credibility, so that when you're pitching to investors, they have a betting mindset to say, okay, this person went to this accelerator, so then at least they might be a bit more credible than if someone was reaching out cold.
Yeah, accelerators are really helpful. And I think the biggest thing, besides funding and learning, it's the community, because like right now it's months later since we graduated, but we still have access to that community that you can reach out, ask questions, and that's really helpful for a startup, because you find like some relationships that would have taken you months to reach out to, some people would have taken you months to reach out to. Perhaps you're looking for assistance with your product or infrastructure, things like that. You can just reach out to the community, and in a day or two you found leads or people that you can talk to. So that's really helpful for a startup. The accelerator we attended is based in Seattle, USA. And the reason why we chose that was, our product or our platform is a two-sided marketplace where we have freelancers on the other side, which is, on the African continent, and the other side where we have, the global African diaspora, who are the customers using the services of those freelance professionals. So it makes sense for us, to connect with the global audience and let them know what we're building, let them know that we have this talent that they can, tap into. And the fact that, Techstars, a huge accelerator, looked at our product and they liked what we were doing, and they helped us, build that product and reach out to more customers, which is, the jobs that we need for the freelancers on our platform, was extremely helpful. So yeah, I think I would encourage people to attend accelerators. Of course, you do your due diligence before, check, it differs on the company and what you're trying to build. Check what you gain from that particular accelerator, before you apply.